Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate you, we inspire you, and we encourage you. And boy, do we have a special gift for you today. This gentleman, a dear friend, brother of mine, I'll tell you, I was able to share the stage with him in New Jersey. I spent a great time with him in Philadelphia, and he brings a lot of value, a lot of wisdom. Let's welcome to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, Mr. Mark Cox. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing awesome. It's nice and early here in California. So
Yeah,
my kind of morning. It's kind of brisk here in California. We don't really have snow by any means, but today the whole car was iced over, so it must have been pretty cold last night. So we had to run a hose on it to get going. So that's
well, Mark,
unusual.
I know the amazing individual you are, the amazing human being you are, but do me a favor, introduce yourself to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show and tell them who is Mark Cox, my brother.
Who's Mark Cox? Well, my name is Mark Cox. I own some schools out here in California. I own a couple of martial arts schools. And then I have an organization that I have about 10 schools that are underneath me of students that I've had since they were young. And now they have their own schools and own students and own black belts. And we have an organization that I kind of head up and called the American Krav Maga Federation. And, we are this little school of mine that I started as a ministry in 1987. I started at my church along with my brother and one of my mentors at the time, rest his soul, Ken Knight. The three of us started this as a ministry, and a couple years in, I knew that I kind of wanted to do this for the rest of my life, and that's what I went out after and opened up a school, and that little school just kind of has spidered out to thousands and thousands of lives that we've got to touch through martial arts, for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, you want to get out your pen, you want to get out your paper, because Mark's going to drop some massive wisdom for us here today. Listen to his heart. You already hear he's going to open up and share some massive amounts of just education and inspiration and true stuff that he went through in life. But listen to what he said. It started off small and it spread. Somebody out there's listening and you're taking notes, you're going to take notes, and you're being impatient because you want your business to be 10x because you hear it all over social media. You want it to be 100x because you hear it all over social media. And like Mark said, great things start off small. I love what you said, Mark, and it's good. Let me ask you this: why do you think so many people talking on that subject get so impatient? Right? They just to say the event that we were speaking at, me and you, last weekend, and people want to be just a big celebrity or be famous all of a sudden, and they don't realize that it takes time, right? You started with small, humble beginnings, and you've blossomed into who you are. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think I can relate it back to a martial artist. I can tell you this: if you want to be good at something in the martial arts realm, you got to show up for class. If you don't show up for class, you're never going to get well. And it's a climb, okay? And then you get work stops along the way. This is what my instructor used to say, right? Martial artist is this: you work hard, and then there's a work stop, and you get another belt. And you keep climbing that ladder, and there's another work stop, which is you get another belt. Well, it's the same thing in business. You gotta, listen, I didn't graduate high school. I took a GED out of high school. I was a machinist like my folks, my dad and my grandfather. And, I got into the martial arts through my brother, and I just knew, I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew that I wanted to own a martial arts school. This is what I wanted to do. And so, I would run the machine, and I used to have this thing on my machine. I was a machinist, and so I'd have this on there when I was getting ready for black belt testing. It'd say no time to slack, 3 months to black, and then it would 2 months to black belt. And then I got my black belt, and I started, then I was called, right? And I said, we had this opportunity at church to teach, and so that's what we did. but everything was like a little bite, right? Everything's like a little bite. Why people want to go? Because, well, in today's world, I can tell you this, that I didn't have the and all that kind of stuff back then. We had pagers, we didn't have cell phones, and so
Pagers.
it wasn't always kind of thrown at you. You know what I mean? I had a pager.
Yeah.
I sometimes wish I had the pager again, because then you can look at the pager and say, okay, well, maybe we'll call them back. So the phone, just, that everything gratis now, everything, you can get it at your fingertips. I believe that fast forwards you into where there's great things about it, but there's also negative things about it, that everything is gratified and everything is now, and there has to be a process in growing. If you can't grow, right? If you can't fail, you have to fail forward, because if you can't, then you have no gratification of what you've achieved. Okay.
Yes.
You at all, because I can sit back here in my school and I can look at what I've got, and um and see how I was blessed, right? And then there's times I sit in my school by myself and I say, I cannot believe I have this. You know what I mean? And the only way I got it was I just kind of put my head down, went to work, got rid of friends that weren't on my vision. I still hear it today. Now, what, I've had my school for almost 40 years now, 35, 40 years. And they said, are you going to get a real job at some point? It's still funny.
Isn't it funny how we're conditioned and programmed just in school and by our parents, and are you going to get a real job 9 to 5? And many people believe that, like it's engraved in their DNA, and that's the way they true success is no knocking professionals, right? A doctor and a lawyer, or even a CPA, but
Right.
having your own business is a true profession.
It is. And it's not for the weak. I can tell you that for a fact. Okay. A 9 to 5 job that I worked is a robotic. I get up, I clock a time, and my time gets off. I'd go play basketball or go lift some weights, and then that was it. Right. When I say this about entrepreneurs all the time. I'll work 100+ hours a week, not to work 40 hours a week for someone else. That is
Boom,
a
baby.
guarantee. So,
say that again. I love that.
I said I will work myself 100 hours a week on my business, so I don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else's. That is 100% true. And I tell my entrepreneurs, and I tell anybody that's going to open up a school underneath me or whatever they're going to do, hey man, you're going to have to put in some work, but you put in all this work here, and then, as things grow and as you grow people, your business grows, and then you can kind of ease back and start to duplicate yourself. And that's kind of really, that's the duplication is the key, and how to duplicate yourself into your business so that you can affect thousands of lives just by this little dream of having this little kind of, my first school was a 2,000 square foot school into what I have today.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what Mark's saying. Maybe you've been in business for a year, 2 years, and your business isn't where you need it to be, and you're frustrated. You're being impatient because it's small and it doesn't seem to be growing, doesn't seem to be multiplying. And maybe you're working 35 hours a week. Maybe you're working 40 hours a week. And to what Mark just said, when you're new, right, when you're in the infancy stage, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll just say 6 months to a year in business, you got to be putting in at least, I would say 60 hours. And then if you really want it to grow, you got to be putting in 70 hours. And I'm not saying you're going to be working every single day, but the thing is you do want to rest one day, which is either Saturday or Sunday, but you do have to understand that you have to build the foundation of your business first. And if you're going to approach it like an employee working 40 hours a week, and then you're going to cut off exactly at 5 o'clock, I'm sorry, because the one thing that I had to get used to, Mark, is and I still make hiccups in this, right? Because I'm in Central Time Zone. I'm in Texas, right? That is Cowboys one. Woo woo! Got to give them a shout out. Right. And but right, New York's an hour ahead of me, so and then you're 2 hours behind me. So thank you for waking up early this morning, and I appreciate that. But these are things you got to take into consideration when you're starting your business. If you're going to be doing an online platform or something that's going to be like just web design based, or an online business. And many people don't think about that, and it's like, yeah, you got to do that. What's your perspective on that? If I believe if you're just working 40 hours, it's going to be hard for you to excel and really grow your business, especially if you're in that infancy stage within that first year. And I think most people approach it to where they think like that employee, and then they wonder why 90% of businesses are out of business within the first 3 years.
Well, I think where I got lucky, to be honest with you, is my folks has always kind of have an entrepreneurial type of spirit, right? So if my dad was a machinist, yes, and he worked really hard, but then my dad also opened up his own machine shop at one time. So now he took what he did and he had his own, right? It was called Romark Enterprises, and that was my sister Robin and Mark, right? So it was called Romark, right? And so that's what my parents, they opened that up. And so I've watched them, and I watched my folks. I watched my mom. My dad moved to 4 hours away to open up another thing. But my mother, then she opened up a consignment store in that town, right? And then they ended up that they ran that paid them, and then they ended up selling that business, right? And being able to move back. So I've always kind of seen what the entrepreneur thing, and this is so right. Even though I worked for somebody else, I always had a side hustle. So either if I worked as a machinist, I would get side jobs, and I would go pay to use their machines, and then I would do this. So I always had this kind of entrepreneur thing, which is not taught in school, which was I think I just didn't do well in high school, right? I did great in junior high, and I went to high school, and I kind of walked onto the football team. I had my jaw broken in high school by getting punched in the mouth, right? So I was wired shut from a punch in the mouth. His name's Tony Garcia. Anybody know him? Please let me know. I'd like to go that round one more time based on what I know today. And so I just don't think that we were equipped to say think on your own, think outside the box. We were kind of taught to be in the box, and you need to have a college degree. I tried it. I tried to go to college. It wasn't for me. I wanted to get into the working force. And but at the same token, even when I tell my own children, if you can have your own business one day, I wished I would have done two things in school. I wished I'd known how to formulate business letters better, right? And I wished I
Yes.
knew accounting. Okay. These are the two things that came back to bite me, is not being able to formulate my thought process correctly so I could write business letters and what that is, and not know how the financial thing works, how accounting works, how to balance sheet, how to have a profit and loss, or what does that mean, and how do you do that kind of stuff. Now, when I was in school,
And that's a huge part of business, so people don't realize that.
mm,
And the thing that helped me is every month in the automotive industry, since I ran a dealership, a Chevrolet dealership, to your point exactly. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, you got to write this down. Remember, you retain more information when you take notes, and we're dropping some wisdom here for business. So you definitely want to take notes because you retain over 50% of what you write down. Is every month, right? In the automotive industry, when I ran the Chevrolet dealership, we'd open the month, we'd close a month. So every month we did our financials. Every month we knew what we had going in. Every month we knew what had going out. We knew what our compensation was as far as percentage to employees that we had to pay out, and marketing and all these other numbers. And doing my business coaching now, Mark, I'm amazed how many people still have that shoebox approach where they give you a shoebox at the end of the month. Here's all of my receipts. I have no idea what I paid. Good luck. No, you got to at least have an Excel sheet or some simple form of what am I paying out, and what's my account receivables, and what's my account payables. And most people, they don't even know what their revenue is.
right, that's 100% right. So in, like, let's say in my business, right, I have 100 students, and 100 students are paying you $145 a month, right? So people just do this math, and then they're like, well, gosh, look at how much money he's bringing in a month. Well, one of my mentors always told me that in martial arts, if you can own your building, you're going to be a million miles ahead, which I do, right? And it was how I got it is a whole nother story, but I own it. And I watched this mentor. I was failing 6 months into my business, and I'm like, man, I've got to find a coach because I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm a great teacher. I can get on the mat and I can build you up and I can teach and I can do all that kind of stuff, but I have no clue how to run a martial arts business. Then I just took the martial arts out and it's just one thing. It's a business. And that's what wasn't taught in school. Business was not taught in high school. Why? I have no idea, but it just wasn't. And then when I went to him, it changed me that week. I watched him show how to do contracts, how to do upgrades, how to do everything as far as streams, revenue streams, right? You've got retail, you've got upgrades, you've got birthday parties, and you've got all this stuff. You got upgrades, and then you've got new students, and you've got down payments, and all this stream comes in. Most martial arts schools, and why they fail in our industry is they have a monthly nut and they think it's $145 and I got to get 100 students. That's 14 grand or whatever it is a month. And then all of a sudden you have rent. Then all of a sudden you've got this DWP, and then all of a sudden you got 30% in taxes. Okay. And how do you go about taking your money and getting to a CPA that can protect you so you don't have to give 45% of your money to Uncle Sam? And what that does at when you go do your taxes, you're like, oh my gosh, I used to have a paycheck and they used to take my taxes out. Now they don't. Now I owe this $14,000 that I was paying throughout the year because I didn't prepare. Yes. This is business. And you are correct when you say, when I sit down with anybody that I'm going to consult as far as business goes, I said, there's going to be things that come up in your world that you are not expecting. And I always tell this story. I said, let me tell you my biggest unexpected thing when I realized that things were like, oh man, I opened up my doors. I didn't have a lot of money for new mats. I went and looked at new homes that were getting rid of the brand new carpets and padding in their houses. And I would get the brand new padding and then I would put it down and then I'd lay a floor out for a mat. This is how I opened up my school. Then all of a sudden I had to turn on electric and power, and DWP tells me, hey, by the way, you have you don't have any businesses. You've never had a business. So we're going to take money out of you. We need a deposit. And we need a deposit of up to 3 months of billing. And then they go back to what it used to be, whatever that business is. And they said, oh, so we need $2,000 or you can't have your lights on. And I mean, it just hit me right in the jaw. I was like, man, what the heck? What am I got to sell in order to get that? This is the kind of stuff that is.
So hold up, stop right there, because I think that's critical, what you just said. Listen to what Mark said. He was hit with a $3,000 bill that he was unexpected for his utilities. And this is where most people fail when they quit, right? They give up in their business because all of a sudden you have an unexpected bill of $3,000 and we say, oh, it must be a sign from God not to do it. No, God gave you the idea to begin with. He's fortifying you. He's building you up. So the question I want to ask you at this moment, because this is huge. At that moment when you got that, you had to put down those 3 months worth of electricity or utility bills deposit. You sold something to stay in business. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. I got a guitar. I had a guitar, and I said, okay, well, there's some stuff here that I'm going to have to unload, right? I didn't really have credit, so I couldn't put it on a credit card. So I sold stuff, and in order to pay that deposit, okay, and that's how I continued on. And
Mark,
then I knew.
Do you realize how powerful that is?
I guess I don't. I just was so directed on what I wanted to do that the material thing didn't mean anything to me as much as trying to get these doors open. And yeah, I mean, I got stuff slapped in my face all the time. I mean, I wasn't supposed to have a martial arts school, I thought, because nobody would talk to me. I didn't have credit. And I didn't have a savings. The only way I got this, I don't know if you know this story, is as my last payment on my truck and I was cleaning pools at the time. All right. So I was cleaning pools early in the morning, teaching karate at night. And so my last payment on my truck, I make the payment, my truck gets stolen that week. And I was like, you got to be kidding. But for some reason, the insurance company gave me twice as much as what the truck would really been worth. So I had $4,000, right? I said, okay, I'm putting $2,000 away for the studio. I'm going to find another truck for a couple grand. Found another truck for $2,000. 2 weeks later, that truck was stolen right out from the alley from where I lived with all my pool stuff. I paid $2,000. The insurance company says, okay, that truck, or give me another $4,000. And so I have now $4,000 in my bank that I didn't have before. And then I bought another truck for a couple $1,000. And then that's how I had money to start my school. This is how it all went down. Then nobody would talk to me.
Think about what you're saying. This is what I hear you say. And ladies and gentlemen, take notes, right? You bet on yourself, Mark. Like, think about that. Going back to what I just said a few minutes ago, you were hit with a $3,000 deposit on your utilities. You had to put it down. If not, there was no karate, there was no school at all. And then because you acted in faith and you sold whatever you had to do to get the finances to put the deposit down for utilities, by an act of nature, I would say just by God's grace, not that you want your truck to be stolen, but out of that came out a blessing. And then you got a 2,000 extra. Now you got another truck. And I'm not saying go buy a cheap truck, ladies and gentlemen, and hope it gets stolen. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, God met you, Mark, where your faith was.
Yeah, when
does that make sense?
Back, yes, when I look back on what it all was, I when you're in the middle of it, you're just like, wow, I can't, it's like taking a 1-2 punch in the ring. It's like, pow, when you're getting hit in the mouth, and I just don't go down, man. I don't go down when I fight, and I'm definitely not going down when something like this hit me. I went too far in, and I grew something at the church, and so I wanted to do it. And you are correct. This is where people have to understand that. And you're right. If they're taking notes down, I'm going to tell you this. It's the famous thing, right? You can get knocked down 7 times. You got to get up 8. And I got knocked down constantly. Okay, whether it was personal or whether it was business. And then I get all this money together and I'm ready to rock and roll. Then they won't talk to me. Then they say, you don't have credit. You don't have enough money. You don't have anything. So the leasing agent wouldn't let me talk to the owner. I said, let me talk to him one-on-one. Let me talk to him. And no, he doesn't do that. And so I found out, I ran a property profile and found out that the owner of that business was a dentist. And I made an appointment to have my teeth cleaned. And I sat in his chair and I said, I am not here to have my teeth cleaned. I want to rent that building and nobody will let me talk to you. So I found you myself. And he was just sitting there going, I cannot believe that you are here asking me that. And I said, I am here asking you this. And he goes,
I love this story because you went to a dentist, not having to need a dentist, but you went there because you knew that the dentist owned that building.
That's correct.
Ladies and gentlemen, where right now, I want you to be honest with yourself. Write down right now, as 2023 is getting on its way, where are you making excuses? Where are you using alibis? Where are you using your flaws and excuses? Write down this word. Am I blaming my inadequacies right now? Mm-hmm. Mark could have given up and said, look, I don't have any credit. Woe's me. No bank wants to talk to me. Woe's me. He could have played the victim, but he didn't. He was committed. He was committed and he decided to open up his karate studio. And are you committed to your business? Not even this. Maybe you're not even your business. Maybe are you committed to your life? Think about what I'm saying. Like, right, you get one no and you just cry wolf. You're just like, oh, nobody wants to talk. No, like, think about what Mark is saying. He's speaking from his heart. Dude, you're kind of crazy to go and I like that though, because that just shows how committed you were to opening your studio. So what happened with the dentist, my brother?
Well, so I'm sitting there and he goes, he goes, listen, I don't want to this is what he said to me. He goes, I don't want to overbear you with a 5-year lease that looms over you. I'm going to give you a 1-year lease and a 5-year option. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I said, what does that mean? And he goes, you can have a 1-year lease. It's $1,400 a month. And then you have 5 after that year, you have the option to stay for another 5 years. Oh, I said, oh, okay. So if something goes awry within a year, I only am committed for this year, and then I can have the commitment. And I remember I said, well, I ain't going down in a year. So you and I are going to be together for a bit. And I remember telling him that. It was 1990 is when that went down. And I had to go to a bigger building in 1999. I was with him for 9 years. that dentist. And and he goes, "See anybody do something like that?" And I wish I had the idea. See, it was a passing thing that I had heard. I had a real estate investor that was taking classes, and I had told him the story. And he goes, "You got to run a property profile on that thing and find out who that guy is." And I said, "What's property profile?" And he's the one that told me that's public record on you can find out who owns buildings. And I said, "Huh." And so
Interesting.
that's how it went down. I just happened to that's how it all kind of went down. I listened intently on what he said, and I'm like, well, okay, I need to figure that out. I need to find that out. I need to know what that's about. And that's how I did it. And I tell everybody that anybody that opens up a school with me, I'm very honest up front. I said we have a business that starts when most people are coming home, right? They're bringing their kids from then, and they got to go home and have dinner. And I said, you're going to miss dinner in order to make sure that this type of business grows. And I'm very upfront when I consult people that are opening up a martial arts school on the pitfalls of what's going to come your way, what I had to overcome, and how to be a success. But business is business, right?
Yes.
Multiple streams of income, upgrades, and now at where I'm at now, when you sit back, I don't know, Daniel, how you feel that you've helped, hundreds of people, I'm sure, have their income. Well, that's why I'm coming to you, because I'm going to my next thing in life, right? This losing the speaker competition is pissing me off, right? I am such a competitor that I cannot stand. I hate losing more than I like winning. Do you understand? You see what I'm saying? This is my mindset.
I love that. You hate losing.
And
say that again. Somebody needs to hear that.
I said, I hate losing more than I like winning. And I am such a competitor that I'm just not going down. I didn't like to go down when I fought. And that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu late in my life. It's such a humbling, it's something needed for me, because man, you want to talk about humble, get my ass handed to me every week, on the mat. And I need that to be grounded. I need that humility so that you need humility to become great. If you can't become great without humility, right? And I say it all the time. You got to be a humble beast, right? You got to be a beast where you need to be a beast, right? If you're going to be in business, man, I am going to be a relentless animal and get after what I want. If I'm going to compete, I'm going to be that relentless beast on the mat. But I will be humble in spirit when it comes to winning, and I will be humble in losing, even though I hate it. Right.
Well, we're honored to host you here in a couple of months here at Sticker Shock. So
yeah,
you're going to be a beast when it comes to that. Let me ask you this: what is the best business advice that you've been given? That's the first part of it, and then the second part of that question is, what is the best business advice that you can give us here on the show?
Say the first one again, one more time. The very first question you asked me.
What is the best business advice that you've received that really impacted you?
That I received.
Yes, sir.
The best business advice that I have personally received. Well, when I was sitting down, when I was talking to when I had I had to close my door 6 months into my business. I felt right. And I'm like, I have to find a mentor, man. And he goes, I found him in Black Belt Magazine. And so I was featured in Black Belt Magazine as School of the Month, right? And I remember going, wow, I'm School of the Month and I'm about to close my doors. Man, that's just hypocrisy in the making. And the next one is this guy named Terry Brumley. And I'm like, I'm reading through, I'm like, man, this guy's a Christian. I know he is. He's in Tennessee, but he's smart. He has multiple schools, right? So I call him up. I said, Terry, I said, I'm not here. I said, I need help. And here's the business advice. He goes, I will teach you everything you need to know. You need to make it to me. You figure a way to fly to me. I will put you up. But I'm not going to fly you out. You need to figure that out on how to get to me. I will host you. I will keep you at my house. And this is the guy that doesn't even know me. And I will teach you how to run a martial arts business. And so the best business advice he gave me, I could have just said, I don't even have money for an airplane fare, so I can't do it. but he told me you need to find a way. You find a way, and I'll take you to the way. That's what he said to me. And I found that way. I found a way to get to him. So that was the best business advice, finding a way. And it's the same thing in jiu-jitsu, guys. Here's the thing in jiu-jitsu, right? You're going to find a way out, or you're going to give up and tap out, or you're going to find a way out. Now, sometimes you have to tap, right? Or you're going to go out. So I tell this all the time, right? You've got 3 options when someone's trying to choke you out. You're going to tap out. You're going to pass out. Okay. Or you're going to find a way out. Those are the 3 options that you have. I believe it's the same thing in business. And I say it all the time. You're going to have these options.
I love that. I love that story though. Think about what he said, ladies and gentlemen. Mark was challenged by his mentor, or not even mentor at the time, but soon to be mentor. You have to find a way to meet. So what that made Mark do, I want to ask you this question. Write this question down for yourself on your paper right now, on your journal. How resourceful am I? The first thing he said is, don't tell me you can't afford it. I'm not going to fly you out. That's what his future mentor said. He goes, you got to come to me. I'll take care of you with the housing, but you got to find your way to me. And Mark just said he didn't have the money. So you had to be more resourceful than what you usually are. And if you're listening to Mark's story, what he's saying is over and over and over, he was challenged with an opportunity to give up. He was challenged with the gift of giving in, but he didn't. He was resourceful. He was determined. And he even sold his guitar. What are you holding on to that maybe you're not even using anymore that could bring just additional revenue to your business right now? And you're saying, yeah, Daniel, but I don't want to get rid of this. Then you don't want to be successful. You don't want it that much. You know, I remember, Mark, when you saying that story about just what we're talking about right now. When my son Julian, people don't know this, but when my son Julian was born, he was a baby, and my dad was sick, and he ended up passing away probably like a couple of months later. And that was one of the lowest parts of my life. And I remember not having money to buy milk, not having money to buy Pampers. 23 years ago, because my son just turned 23. You know what I did? I sold CDs. I had about, I don't know, 200 CDs. And granted, CDs were kind of phasing out. But I did what I had to get the milk, to get the Pampers. And believe me, it was, I don't know about you, but my CD collection was something that, like, man, I didn't want to get rid of it. But I said, that's stupid if I don't sell these things, because that's what I have that people will pay me money for right now in a jiffy. And I got rid of them. And you know what the ironic thing was? I didn't even miss them after I sold them.
Right. Isn't that weird? Yeah. I understand that too. I get that. I get that too.
I was like, so sometimes we're attached to things that really we think we have a meaning, but really, does it really have a meaning? And I truly believe, because in that moment when I was literally crying out to God, like, man, I became a Christian for this. I was better being by myself. And forgive me, God, but that's what I thought at that moment, right? Like, life got harder. But I truly believe in business, Mark, as we're growing, and you go from 1 year to 2 years, and you're just kind of just continuing your consistent growth. You're going on over 35 years already, like you mentioned. Would you say that there's a purging that has to happen, and a pruning you, and as a human being, right? Your character has to be pruned and purged, and all that junk has to come out of you to be a successful businessman or woman?
Well, in my world, yes, because there's a fine line between cocky and confidence. I can tell you that. All right. It's a very fine line, because you have to have some confidence in yourself that you can do things. You got to do it without being cocky, because then you're going to get knocked right in the face, and you're going to get knocked right on the ground. As soon as you get cocky about one thing, life has a weird way of straightening that out. Right. And so I think that in business, right, you have to have we have to have the same thing, right? You have to have courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and you have to have an indomitable spirit. And this is exactly the principles I teach in my class, right? You have to treat people like you want to be treated. You get them to where they need to go, and you are going to get either paid or compensated a different way in your life, right? And you have to have integrity. And without it in business, without having integrity and having ownership, you're going to fail. All right. You got to be able to tell the truth. Okay. And then take ownership when you fail. This is imperative. And I tell this to everybody when you become a black belt, right? It's the same thing. Okay. Then you have to have perseverance, because every day something is going to come up that's going to knock you off course. And you're going to have to figure out how to get back on the train tracks and move forward. Okay. Because there is no stopping a freight train when it's moving forward. All right. And so that's the perseverance part. Okay. And you're going to have some self control. You're going to have to control yourself to do things that others are not willing to do. That means I got to get up earlier. I got to go to the gym earlier because I got to go teach a class early when people are coming in. I've got to, I've got to continue my learning, even though I don't want to do that. I got to find a time to have dinner with my family. When other people are having dinner, I'm on the mat teaching, because that's the hours that I do. Right. This is all self-control. Do things. There's a difference between discipline and self-discipline, right? Discipline is somebody telling you what to do. Self-discipline is you telling yourself what needs to be done. That is the difference. Okay. And then an indomitable spirit, that means the spirit of I'm just not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. Regardless of what it is, I'm not tapping out. Jesus didn't tap out. He didn't tap out. So
Wow.
he died on the cross. 3 days later, he rose, right? There was no tapping out. He had something to fulfill. Did he want to do it? I don't know. He certainly prayed until he prayed so hard that blood came out of him. All right, in the Garden of Gethsemane, that, can you take this away? Can you take this away? I do not want. And then, but he had a destiny, and he fulfilled his destiny. So, it's the same thing here in business. 5 principles to become a black belt. You can say them, but there's a difference between reciting courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. We say it every time after class, and there's a difference between saying it and living it. And when you live it, you become it. That's just the way it goes, I think, in my world at least. But I think that's pretty much straight across when it comes to business.
No, that's I guess you kind of answered our question, that the second part of the question. I want to loop back to that. I don't want to forget about that, but you're right? You gotta not just, so this is what I got from what you said, right? You just can't, right? You gotta read the word, you gotta apply the word, and then you gotta be the word.
That's
Right?
correct.
You read the word, you right, you read the word, you apply the word, and then you're gonna be the word. And that's what Mark's saying. You gotta live out your core values of what you're standing for. And that I thank you for opening your heart for that. So going back to the second part, as we loop back and we're coming into the final stages of this amazing episode, what is your best business advice that you would give us today, Mark?
Unwavering discipline is my best advice. What I tell anybody, you want something, and you're going to have to be disciplined. You have to have discipline and ownership in order to have success. All right. You can't make excuses. So that's where the ownership part comes in, right? You can't make excuses why you can't do things. Not that things don't come up, but you can't make an excuse for them. Okay. And then you have to have discipline. You have to be willing to do things that others are not in your world in order to have what you want. Okay. It's just, there is no, you can't have motivation. Everybody's motivated, right? I can get up today and, okay, I'm motivated to start losing weight today. At 2:00, when life has hit you and you're like, you know what? I'll do that tomorrow. Okay. Motivation and discipline. I think everybody's motivated. Everybody's motivated at night when we're laying our head on the pillow. Tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow I'm going to make it happen. Tomorrow is the day. Tomorrow comes. Life hits them right in the jaw, and it's like, okay, next week. Okay, it's January. My the New Year's resolution that I was going to do has already failed for 2 weeks, so we'll do that next year. See, there's motivation is temporary insanity. Okay, discipline is what you need in order to forge yourself and to forge more of it. And I think that's the best business that I tell anybody. You have to be disciplined. You have to be willing to do things that others won't. You have to learn things. You have to get up earlier than somebody else. You have to stay up later than somebody else. You have to be, why am I the one that is the head of the organization? Not because I'm special. It's because I just didn't quit.
Yes.
I'm the highest rank under my instructor. Why? Because I'm super, I'm super black belt. No, I didn't quit. Everybody else has quit over the years. I sit next to my instructor now because I'm the one that had the perseverance to see it through and the self-discipline to do it. So that's what I think that
I love
that's
it.
the most. That's the most thing. Extreme ownership, man. That book changed my life. The Jocko book on extreme ownership, where stop making excuses. And once you have your own ownership, when you listen to people talk, you're like, man, you're so full of shit sometimes, man. Just shut up, dude. Okay. Just be quiet. All right. Just take some ownership in what you're doing there. You'd have so much more respect. You know what I mean? And so those are the thing. I think self-discipline and extreme ownership are two things that need to go hand in hand.
I love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, where in your life, where do you need more self-discipline? Where do you need to be more accountable to yourself? Maybe you need a coach. Maybe you need somebody to not to hold your hand, but to guide you through the process until you make it a habit, till you make it a lifestyle. I think the biggest lie we've been told is it takes 21 days to form a habit. No, it doesn't. It takes 21 days to just initiate the connections in your brain. Until 90 days, it becomes actually a lifestyle, and that's what you want it to be. And maybe you need a coach. Maybe you need somebody to guide you and to just take it to that next level. And you're wondering why your life isn't changing because you're not self-disciplined, and you're one of those that you're motivated in the morning, but as soon as that adversity hits in your life, in your business, you're like, you go south. And I want you to pose this question to yourself: who am I when I'm squeezed? Does junk come out, or do I persevere, like Mark's saying, to the other side, and I don't give up, I don't give in? Man, I'm loving this, Mark. Can you believe we're almost to the end of it? I want to talk about your book though before we end this. You have a copy of your book on you?
Where is my book? Man, I've been signing so many of them. Actually, I think they're all actually all my books are sitting on my dresser. Do it. So I don't have one here sitting in front of me. I should have brought it, but it's sitting.
So Mark's book is called Beyond the Mat.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing book. They can get it on, and actually we'll include that in the show notes, Mark. But give us a brief minute about your book, if you don't mind. Beyond the Mat, and what is a reader going to get out of it when they go to Amazon? As a matter of fact, as soon as you're done with this episode, buy Mark's book on Amazon, Beyond the Mat.
Yeah, so the book, I had thought about this for many years to write a book. I've always wanted to, and I just thought, well, you know what? How does how does a kid that never even graduated high school going to write a book, right? And so I found, Emilio, I found this co-author network, and I'm like, wow, you know what? Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can, I once again, right? I have this coach, and they're helping me kind of formulate how to do that, and then you find a way. As far as writing goes, but my book has to do with lessons that I learned, just exactly what I'm talking about here. And I've learned so many lessons on the mat, and I've taken it beyond that mat and into life, right? And I guess one of them that you like the story that you like the most is probably of me competing. I talked a lot about in my competition days, and even though I held titles of world championships and stuff like that, the title, it's funny. As I'm sitting here looking at you, I'm looking at a box that I have sitting in my office. These are all my trophies I won from way back in the 90s. They're just all sitting here in this plastic box. Right. So the world championship, does it really mean anything to anybody? Like when they come and take a lesson from me, oh, you were a world champion. Does that really matter? It doesn't matter squat. What matters is, can you take myself or my child to that kind of status? Can you help me with that? Right. So that's really what. And so I have a pile of trophies in a box, and all these wins that I have was never what the lesson I learned. I want you to think about this for a second. I taught courtesy, integrity, and perseverance, self-control, and having an indomitable spirit. And then I go and I lose this tournament to a guy in a wheelchair. And I'll never forget, I was so mad. I was so irritated that I had to compete against him, number one, because it's hard to compete against somebody with a disability because they're already like, wow, look what this guy can do. Listen to the ego that is right there. Just even when I think about it, it pisses me off. That
it's eye-opening.
I was mad that I had to compete against somebody with a disability. Every time I think about it, it just irks me. And so I go through this. I'm the guy to beat, man. I'm the number one seed. And this guy missed a couple breaks, and he misses. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you miss, fool. You can't miss in this level competition because you fail. And then we get up and he wins by 1/10 of a point. Oh my gosh. I was like so mad, right? I left. I didn't talk, I didn't shake his hand. I didn't do nothing. They had this thing coming about so he's a keynote speaker that night in the World Championships, right? And before the show, he wheels out and he speaks about what happened to him, and he was hit by a truck, blood transfusion, and in the blood was HIV or AIDS, and he is dying of it. He
Wow.
probably is not going to be here the next year, and I am sinking lower in my seat, going, "Oh my gosh, this was not to win your championship." You might see sometimes I got a magazine, and you got to be put in the magazine, and you got all these accolades, right? And you're the magazine and the world champion and all that, and he got to do all that. Now imagine that. Now his family has that for the rest of their life. Hey, look at what my dad did. He was in a wheelchair and he was dying that year. Think about that. And I'm so mad. My ego is so engaged. My ego is so engaged, man,
Wow.
that I was so mad. And then I get hit again. I'm already feeling bad. And he's wheeling down we meet each other in a hallway, and he has this board. And he goes, "Mark, I know you won that." And he goes, these are our scores, right? And he goes, "I just wanted to sign this board for you, and and just thank you," right? And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." And I remember looking at him going, "You know what, dude? I didn't even shake your hand afterwards, man. I was such a scumbag." I said, "I was so mad that you were in a wheelchair and that I lost a competition, that I missed a whole lesson on me." I said, "I teach my kids not to have egos like this." And mine's so, right. EGO. I say this all the time. I edge God right out, ego. Right. And I said, "Man," I said, "I just have to apologize." And he goes, "There's no need for apologies, man." He goes, I know what today was. And his humble spirit was like, and he's dying, and he's not going to be here. And he wasn't here the next year.
Wow.
How does the world championship mean anything after that? After that engagement, it weighs on me so much. And I tell this story all the time, that, like I've told you before, right? I hate losing more than I like winning. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. And I couldn't stand it that day, but I didn't have any humility in the loss. That's where I failed. And that's what I tell everybody, man. I said that's one of the stories in my book that I talk about in the lessons that I learned on the mat, that I've taken outside the mat, and what martial arts has done, or
I
what I've
love that.
done as a teacher.
That was powerful, man. Ladies and gentlemen, where right now are you edging God out? Where in your life are you edging God out? Where in your life are you edging God out in your business? Think about what Mark said. You're trying to do everything yourself, and you're just frustrated, you're mad, things ain't clicking because you're trying to resolve the problems, the issues in your own ability instead of relying on God's abilities.
Yeah, that's true.
Think
I
about
did
that for
that.
a moment. Mark, this has been an amazing time. Last question. What's a scripture or a quote that you rely on in times of adversity? Is there a scripture or a quote that you rely on times of adversity?
See that right there? Psalm 144:1. He prepares my arms for battle, my fingers for war. Because every day I get up, I go to battle. So whether it's in business or whether it's personal, is one of the things. So that's one of my favorite verses that I have, right? And I
I
think
love it.
I speak often about about this, the humanity of Jesus, right? When he's at a funeral that he knows he's going to raise somebody, his friend Lazarus, right, has died. And the shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept. That means he was all human at that particular time, watching everybody suffer. Even though he knew he was going to raise Lazarus right from the dead, he still wept with everybody else. He didn't go, Yeah, you guys don't know anything. He was in a human moment, in a God form. He was there feeling the sorrow of everybody. And so I often think about that because I've had a lot of that in my life, right? And so I don't know, is it on here? See this helmet right here? This is my nephew, Cody, that died. And this is my sister's middle boy. And I remember how sad I was that day and watching my sister and knowing that Cody was a 34-year-old man that left 5 children behind. And why did God do that, man? But I remember driving behind the fire truck. I didn't go in the limousine. I wanted to watch the sides of the streets in Colorado, and everybody stopped and they were paying respects to Cody. And I knew that he didn't get to see his daughter that was going to be born 2 weeks later because he had passed away. And they even kept him alive for a day or two because he wanted to give all his organs to everybody else, right? And I was like, man. I remember saying, we're crying. And I knew that there's so much burden on us for that. And I'll cry about it now if I'm not careful, but
it's okay to cry.
God's humanity in that time was, he knew how we feel. He knows how we feel. And so he knows how we feel, right? And he knows what hunger is because he was tempted, right? He knows what sadness is. He knows what adversity is, and he knows all that. But yet, we're here, and I believe that we're here to win, and we're not here to give up and have a spirit of weakness. So why we're here? Well, we need to get after it. That's just what I feel.
Love it, brother. Man, you've been an amazing guest, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Cox, get his book right now, Amazon, Beyond the Mat. And he's an amazing. Mark also has. What's the name of your podcast, brother? That way people can tune into it also.
Yeah, so I have a podcast. It's called At Real Talk with Mark Cox. You can find that pretty much. You can easy to find me anywhere. It's Mark Cox 100 is my. Everybody asks me what's the 100. The 100 is my black belt number. Believe it or not, I was my instructor's 100th black belt.
Awesome, brother.
And so that's what the 100 is. So Mark Cox 100 through all platforms, you'll find me, and it's At Real Talk with Mark Cox. And my guest, matter of fact, you've been on the show.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. And
yeah, we rock it.
It's a great show. So we'll have all the show notes there. We'll have all his things to his shows, to his book, and everything else in the episode. So reach out to him. Mark, thank you so much, my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for this week's episode. If you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, go to DanielGomezGlobal.com. That's DanielGomezGlobal.com and fill out our entrepreneur's assessment. We want to hear from you. We want to help you. We want to add value to you. And if you're an aspiring speaker, Mark's going to join us. March 17th and 18th here at Sticker Shock Speaking Academy in San Antonio. I'll tell you what, your world needs to hear your story. Businesses, corporations will pay you to share your story with the world. We want to see you here in San Antonio, March 17th and 18th. And last but not least, go right now to themakingsofamillionairemind.com. That's themakingsofamillionairemind.com. Get our book, get our course. It's going to bless you, especially if you're a business owner. You need our course, 27 powerful, radical changing modules that are going to change the way you think and shift the way your perspective sees things. Until next week with another
This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.